Let Sucharita have the shoe. Yeah, yeah.
Hello and welcome everybody. We're discussing a book which is very broad in its scope and thus relevant to nearly everybody in the world. How work, as we know know the definition of work, or what work brings up for us, how it is changing, the trends which are driving the change, and how it has already changed perhaps in some sectors and changed into something which may or may not be known to us. So we're discussing that, and it's a very interesting book, and I'm lucky to have two very interesting people to discuss that with. So I hope that we'll learn a lot from Shomyajit and Sucharita about this book. Starting off with you, Sucharita, what are the major differences which you thought during COVID would impact your work? And as COVID ended and stuff played out, you would have seen that maybe some of it actually didn't impact it in such a way, and some of it impacted it in a deeper way. What would that be?
Thank you, Deval. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today this afternoon. And this is a very special book written by a special friend. And I'm really humbled to be on the stage today discussing this. Now, to first answer his question, I'm a lawyer. So I want you to transport yourselves to a courtroom imaginatively. Many of you may have been in the courtroom. There could be lawyers here, but or seen in movies. So you know how it is. It's like a courtroom where the judge is sitting on an elevated bench, and there are a whole lot of black coat wearing lawyers, black coat gown and wearing lawyers. There are clients sometimes. Then there are stenographers. Then there are court officers inside the court. So it's a very busy, physically busy environment. So from that, it suddenly had all of this had to vanish, you know, and whole of it had to come into a digital platform because the judiciary, the three arms of a federal nation, that is the executive, legislative, and the judiciary. Even if executive and legislative, I don't know, they can work from anywhere, but judiciary cannot stop. It's like oxygen to a nation; it cannot stop even for a day. But this shock to the entire judicial system of our country, which is already overburdened, I think India is still grappling to come in the ease of doing business parameter because of the judicial system not being technology savvy and being so slow. It is still much below. Having said that, so just imagine that physical environment being transported into a very digital kind of a situation, which could not happen overnight, but it did happen over the next few months. And there were so many new kinds of matters, which were coming up because people were not being able to pay rents, people were not being able to commit to commercial arrangements, commercial contracts. So new kind of matters were coming up every day, apart from the regular criminal benches, constitutional benches, etc., etc. Because India has a very large section of MSMEs, they were being deprived, they were not being able to meet demands, they were not getting paid. So, whole lot of new kind of matters were coming up. So, gradually, what happened is that this entire judicial system moved to a digital platform. So, from the courtroom scenario, which was empty, we all started logging into the IDs given by the high courts and the Supreme Courts. The judge was sitting probably in his home office. Lawyers were appearing from their respective homes or chambers. Clients could also log in. So digitally things had to be filed. So obviously it was I won't say everything stopped, but it did carry on. It did reach a point of time when people were thinking because COVID carried on for 2 years. So it did reach a point of time where people were thinking online is better, you know. But this is as far as the dispute resolution or litigation practice of our profession is concerned. Now, I do a certain kind of practice, which is corporate, which is real estate, infrastructure, etc., where online was really the way to be there. And so many transactions happen just online and globally. Negotiations happened online, drafts were exchanged online, signings happened online, deals were closed, money was transferred, and M&A lawyers became very, very busy in this country at that point of time. So for us, this is how the transition happened. Gradually, now we are back to a physical court form, but the current CJI of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, it is one of his main agendas is how to make the judiciary very, very technology savvy and include a lot of technology intervention there in the judicial, in the court systems. And for us, of course, what we have done as a law firm, for instance, we have introduced a lot of tools, technology driven tools, which increase our efficiency a lot. But we are lawyers, we are lawyers because of our cerebral prowess, and we are entrepreneurs because of our quirks. That perhaps cannot be replaced by AI, though I know there's a lot of psychometric research analysis which is constantly going on, but that will take some time. And I'm happy to say that it's good if it takes some time. But is it irreplaceable to a certain extent? Maybe it can be replaced. Certain mundane things, certain things like a due diligence, or etc., can be done. But not the findings, not the strategy as yet, and a broad level strategy, certainly not. So, this is where we are as far as technology is concerned in relation to the legal world. But everybody is trying to incorporate some amount of technology in order to improve efficiency, for sure.
Thanks. That brings me squarely to Shomajit. In the book, if any of you read it, there's a section about the Luddites who went and broke the machines, the looms. Earlier on, there were hand looms in England, and then the steam engine came, and such the hand looms translated into power looms, not electrical power but steam power. And they went and broke the machines because it was taking away jobs. So, what do you think, Shomajit? Is this AI world going to take away jobs or create jobs? And is this really, like they say, this time it is different? So, is this not the same as the steam engine? Is this not the same as the first computer? Is this not same as the first fax machine? And is it really that different?
Yeah, thanks, Deval. So, we talk about AI, but if you really if we really look at uh, current stage 2024, we are actually at the very first stage of machine learning. AI is a bit away from us, as the book suggests that it might take another 7 to 8 years. I think technology is sort of, coming to us faster than we ever thought. But in terms of the first level of machine learning, the way we are seeing is, whether it will take away jobs or, you know, where I see it is how the new generation is imbibing the how the smarter, newer people who are coming into the workforce, they are actually, using technology. For people like us, we are actually learning on a daily basis, and it seems that the new people who are joining our workforce, they are as if pre-trained. They exactly know, what will be expected from them. I think that smartness with which, especially, fortunately, I only work with Indians, and the way the Indian next gen, uh, uh, I think my daughter's generation, the way they are actually taking AI or, as I said, machine learning as with so much of positivity, and they are searching for they don't want to do that same mundane stuff, manually, and that's the best learning. We cannot expect our younger people to do anything which is routine. They have to use their human abilities, Rest of the stuff technology will do for them. And today, I think at the first level of machine learning, the way India is using the machine learning in every sense, in exactly the way Sucharita said, in our world, which is investments and finance. I think, today, we go to a client and we ask what part of your portfolio is managed by machines. Are you still dependent on the fund managers to give you returns? So what percentage of your portfolio is machine managed? And this is that we have a great conversation starter in terms of giving him something more than what he already has.
Sure. No, I agree. I think I'm also in the camp which believes that any tech will help us grow as a world and not kind of contract as a world. Uh, some people and even the book says that the EQ portion of it, the emotional quotient, your ability to empathize with another human being, your ability to be sympathetic to another human being, that is what is going to drive the new workplace, and that is what is actually driving the workplace also. Organizations like Tata, various other organizations, always considered to have very high level of EQ as compared to, say, a faceless corporation. So what do you think, Sucharita? Will EQ be the differentiator between, say, you being replaced by a machine in terms of a legal issue? Would your client actually be happy talking to ChatGPT and bearing his or her soul and telling ChatGPT that, look, I'm in this situation, and how will you extricate me from this?
That's a very, sorry, that's a very, very good question, actually. So I think Chat GPT has not been mentioned here because I think that came after
After
the book.
that
And
shows the book was quite prescient also.
right, exactly. But of course, things akin to that have been discussed. Now, I don't use ChatGPT at all, but I know people, there are people who use ChatGPT, and for certain things like you generate a speech for me, like today we are here. If I would have told to ChatGPT, listen, this is the book I'm having to speak on, you give me some pointers. So I spent a lot of time, and thankfully so, reading this book. But maybe somebody who's smarter than me would have perhaps just told ChatGPT that. ChatGPT could have flung some suggestions out. But the emotion with which I read this book, I don't think ChatGPT would have been able to do that. So every time I was reading this book, I was actually visualizing Obik and trying the author trying to say something to me. So of course that ChatGPT can't do. So that, to answer your question a little bit, that's what I've told you. And secondly, um, a solicitor's first duty is to be a friend. That's what I have learned from my father, who was also a solicitor, that even if your client has a stomach ache, he should call you first, not the doctor. That আমার পেট ব্যথা করছে, কি করা উচিত, ডাক্তারকে ফোন করবো? So that type. So that's how solicitors are trained. So I don't think ChatGPT can ever be your friend. So if there is some issue, family issue, or certain strategy discussions that the client wants to do, who turns into a friend over time, and we want that to happen, that's the personal touch that we give to the clients, that ChatGPT cannot replace, and I will have to always be there around for that.
Right? Thank God for that. uh, Shobhajit, to take this argument on the opposite side, right? A lot of times we said that financial markets have a lot of biases. If there is a particular company of a conglomerate X, then that has a conglomerate discount. If it is owned by a gentleman Y, then it has a premium to it because uh, it kind of carries better corporate governance, or at least perceived better corporate governance. Do you think that the machines, as Mr. Chanda has said in his book, will actually remove that bias and make it just better?
What a lovely question, Deval. Thanks for asking that. So, you know, uh, as I said, it's first generation of machine learning. Machines have even started uh, factoring, corporate governance and corporate benevolence into prices. That's how smart machines are today. So we work with with a particular international firm, and that's where the data points are a lot more evolved. Uh, so, so, so they are actually trying to invest or time companies with a lot of data points that they are getting, and they are saying that the Fortune 100 stocks and the kind of available data points is giving them a sort of an ability to give monthly positive returns. So they are trading on the stocks, and they are giving returns which are positive and positive every month.
So for those of you not familiar with the financial world, that's the holy grail. If you can go month on month and month on month positive, that means you've actually achieved alchemy.
Yes, yes, and that's, I think, um, the the investment world we are entering. And within my company, I talk about that we are entering the, we are leaving the Warren Buffett world, Peter Lynch world, and entering the machine world Buffett and the machine Lynch world. I think Ovik has done such a wonderful job in the book, where he has exactly captured this part, you know. And he says that, I'm writing the book when I really don't know how the world workplace will be 1 month down the line. I'm in the middle of COVID. And I am writing a book where I'm predicting how the world workplace will change 5 years down the line. And with that kind of an extreme dichotomy, he and his friend said, really has created wonder. And I think this is for everyone in any kind of workplace. It's like a Bible. One should really go through and and be one step ahead of the kind of challenges that's looking at you.
Right? I'm sure work is so broad that it has to be looked at from multiple dimensions. I'll just do a quick poll. So, how many people in the audience think that there could be a chance that the AI machine overlord will one day rule us, and actually, they will know better than us what is happening, and we will become slaves to AI? So, quick show of hands: one, two. Okay, so three. So very few people there. Uh, what do both of you think? How will the workplace of the future be defined by AI in terms of, say, or not just AI, even greater technology in terms of the human stuff, in terms of bullying, in terms of being father figure? Some organizations, the boss or the I don't know, CEO, chairman is the father figure, the mother figure, whatever. So on both sides, how do you think that'll change? Because we have a very enlightened audience. Very few people believe that something really dramatically bad is going to happen. They think something dramatically good can happen out of the tech.
Okay, so first thing first, I think companies will continue to be run by human beings, and whether you bring in the best management consultant or the best machines, you will still have to have the right people to run your organization, at least at a strategic level. Also, at a blue collar level, I think we have come a long way when it comes to uh, you know efficiency at a top level. But I think it will, AI is not going to make much of a difference there at an infrastructure level or at a complete factory level. Where AI will play is to give managers uh, pointers to take better decisions, and that's, I think, where India, the way we say, the next 10 years, 20 years will be India's decade. The more I meet people outside India, I think that's where Indians have 3 steps ahead. I think I started off saying that how our next generation continues to surprise me with their ability of understanding technology better than our generation. But I think that's where India is 3 steps ahead of 95% of the world. And some of you know that we talk about US, but if you just move a little outside the West Coast, I think India is at par, if not better, in terms of our understanding, our perceiving technology. And I think that's where India will sort of lead the way for the rest of the world. So I think AI will play a significant role in the way businesses run, and it is just going to be more and better. But our Indians, our new India, will imbibe, learn, uh, and will take it to the rest of the world. I think we are 2 steps ahead in that direction.
Sucharita, this brings me to a very cool thing in the book. The beauty of the book, when all of you read it, you'll see that it's peppered with quotes from Shakespeare, but it's got a lot of data and a lot of real data from McKinsey and from Gartner and from whoever else. Uh, One of the data points in the book talks about a survey which happened just, I think, 2 years ago, where the results were that Indian corporations were actually some of the least empathetic corporations in the world. And still, there you deal with so many corporates from across the country. What do you think? Are we less empathetic as a country in our companies, and the workplace, or are we less empathetic as a country? Period.
So this empathy and EQ, all this were very much discussed post, right from the onset of COVID. Onset of COVID, everybody was in shock. And after that, thankfully, these things started coming into the front. And I remember during those 2 years, I was the chair of Indian Women Network, which is the Indian Women Network of CII. So we did lot of programs on just empathy, EQ, emotional wellness, and women were, everybody knows this data, they were disproportionately affected during this COVID. So, in fact, his book has a chapter on inequality, which became so glaring at that point of time, and even otherwise it is in a country like India. So, organizations, yes, now they have woken up to the fact that they need to be much more empathetic than what they were 2 years back. Larger MNCs like a Tata Group and other larger MNCs, they obviously had it much ahead. But Indian companies have woken up to the fact much later. And the thing about India is that it's not so easy for Indian companies also, or for Indians also for that matter, because Indian economy has a very large bracket of MSMEs. They have their own set of troubles all the time, from the startup stage till a much more bigger, larger stage in their corporate journey. There, whether they have to be empathetic, whether EQ is the first thing in their mind, it's not that way at all. So they have to deal with GSTs of the world, they have to deal with other things of the world. So empathy, women related issues, these obviously take a back seat at some point of time. So and so also for Indians, because the Indians, there is a very big middle class in Indians. They have their regular struggles in life. So for them also to sit back and think that it will make sense for me to be empathetic, it will make my organization, because he has actually given a lot of points in which what happens when you are empathetic, what happens when you have EQ, what happens when you have diversity. So if you keep on saying it'll add to profits, that may not be the right thing to say. But if it adds to innovation, if it adds to collaboration, etc., etc., then it makes sense. But these are all being discussed now. In the last 3 4 years, it has really come up to the discussion point of a lit meet like this or anywhere else. As CI chair, also, I know a lot of sessions are held on future of jobs, on future of workplace, where the stress is on empathy. But I would like to say one thing over here, that in our stress to be very empathetic or always be emotional about, we should not lose out on being sometimes a hard taskmaster also. Because I know from my experience, if I'm always empathetic, if I'm always saying ki na na ছেড়ে দাও বাচ্চা মেয়ে করতে পারবে না, then how will I, like I always maintain, leave behind a legacy as a professional of another crop of good lawyers? You have to walk on fire to to evolve to be a good lawyer, to be a good legal profession. But technology will perhaps, like how you were mentioning in the North is Loud, technology will perhaps help us in putting the feedback in such a way that they take it positively. So that's something which I learned from you just now. Maybe I will deliberate this at my office at some point of time. But this is what I think there should be a balance between empathy and being a constructive, you know, critique, so that the people who we are training, they also come up to be really good professionals at some point of time.
Right. No, I agree. And one thing, when I read the book, what struck me as, like, they say that you're always a schoolboy at heart. What struck me is that Indian schools are less empathetic to kids than, say, global schools. They're much more stricter, and that arguably has a benefit, and that has a positive to it. Staying with Sucharita, you said about how ladies were more impacted during COVID. The book talks about our female labor force participation being very low in India. And for those of you who've read it, otherwise, also, that's a kind of continuing problem which we have in India, that a very small proportion of our total labor force is females. And as a proportion of the overall females in India, right now, only 19% are in the labor force. That has various other side effects in terms of shrinking the pool of employable people and so on and so forth. But you being with CII, having read the book, and generally having grappled with this problem, what do you think is the reason? Like, what in your view would be the one fix which would fix at least 2-3 percentage points, if not, like, solve it all?
So yes, so as one of the reasons is that if we start right from the journey of a girl in an Indian family, obviously we have to change our mindset that there is no girl boy. The girl has to be brought up with the thought process that you have to be financially independent, because that is the only independence, actually, if you think about it. So that's how it has to be. And all the time during her career, during her education ages and during her career, she has to be encouraged to never give up and be there, And how to be there? All these organizations will have to have those enablers to help that woman be there and not leave the workforce once she's like starting to have a family, or she's, getting married, or etc., etc. So there is a lot of gender equality. More than gender equality, gender equity has to be put into that workforce. That today, if the husband wants to take leave to go to the PTM, he should be allowed to do so and not mock that and laugh that. And because the moment he will obviously tell the wife that, look, in my office, this is how people perceive it. You go, you take leave, and you go. So obviously, when the wife constantly takes leave, then the wife is not taken any more seriously in that office. अरे वो तो leave लेती रहती है, कभी बच्चा, कभी घर, कभी सास, like that. So this gender equity component has to be put into that. Some point of time, we will have to be caregivers to both our children and our parents. It is fait accompli.
But what are we doing wrong as a nation? Because even Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have higher female labor force participation than we do.
Which is very strange, actually, because here women in education, if I take the example of a law school, any batch will have more than 50% of women. But how many women, they stay in the career path, and how many women partners are there today in a law firm? We have to make conscious efforts all the time. We have to make conscious efforts. That awareness was not there. Now it has started happening, and I'm looking in the next decade, maybe things will change. But even women will have to be very, very focused on their what they want to achieve. In fact, last session also, I said I had read a book about Naina Lal Kidwai, where she said that always be good to your mother-in-law. You pamper her, you take her for holidays, you give her gifts, take her to the spa so that you can work. So that support system has to be created. Mother-in-law is just by example. That support system has to be created. Women have to realize that if I'm trying to save 5-10,000 rupees by not having a help, but I am staying back home, I am looking after everything, and to glorify, not to keep on glorifying this thing. So a lot of things have to be changed within us also, so that once the support system is made, then sky is the limit. And 50% of the population are women. We hold up half the sky. Just imagine the effect of on GDP. What's going to happen if all the women come out and start working?
Yeah, and also I think the impact on the average empathy level in an organization, it's a cliche, but I think
Of
it's true.
course.
It might go up. Shobhajit, you run a pretty innovative company, based online and distributing financial products all over the place. Uh, the book talks about innovation and the kind of genesis of innovation. So the book says that innovation stems from pain. That if there is a pain point and you come up with a solution, that is innovation, basically. The book also talks about millennials, and all of us in our own way, and the millennials even themselves would have noticed that probably millennials are far more vocal about their pain points, or they are, some would even say, averse to going through the pain. Uh, so, what do you think? Is that something which is a problem with the generation? As older people say, "Oh my God, every generation which follows us has a so-called problem." Or is that just a sea change, or is that just normal and we are just branding it millennial or whatever? You know.
Well, I think it is always good for anyone to be expressive, and especially at workplace. As a leader, do you want people who will keep it to themselves? So that way, as a leader of my own firm, I want people who can be vocal, who can say things at my face. Now, saying things at my face is one part. To take it positively is another part, and it's not easy. It is very, very difficult. So
Even for yourself?
yes, it is difficult. Yes, it is difficult. And sometimes I even sit back and talk to my partner and say, "এটা এভাবে বললো কেন?"
So it's not just the millennials.
so uh, so now stepping just taking one step back. So during our banking days, um, and I used to be, I was privileged to work in some of the best foreign banks in India. And at the very start of the careers, if you had to see how many relationship managers are there in Delhi, and if there are 100, and there were about 30 girls and 70 boys. And invariably, out of those 30, 25 of them will be top performers, you know. And we used to struggle with the boys. "अरे, काम नहीं करते हो, ये नहीं करते हो, वो नहीं करते हो," all that. The girls were there. And if I have to then look at the rankings of Delhi, out of the top 10 RMs, maybe six of them will be there who are girls. Now, what exactly happens to these fantastic girls after 5 years? They get married, they have a kid, and invariably they can't give the time that the bank deserves. And to say the least, these banks are like draconian when it comes to asking for the last flesh. And it is absolutely impossible for a girl to leave a child when he's 6 months and come to work. And by then, all the good clients have already been taken away from her and given to another RM. And she would be asked, "Why didn't you start again? You're such a great performer, you know? But you were not there for 9 months, 10 months. What will we do?" The best of clients had to be serviced. So, what will this girl do? Then he asks for an operation job. And that's where her entire life gets derailed. Now, with the kind of new generation work that we do, I personally feel that through a Google Meet, I can connect with my client a lot more because I'm just talking sense. I think that's the same with Sucharita. When we used to go to their offices, phone calls, yeah, whoa, traveling time, I think I get the best of attention in those 30 minutes. And with that, we are trying to completely go back to our old banking RMs who might not have been working right now, bringing them back to the financial services. And wealth up is growing, and we wish we can do much more, but we are taking the right steps in the right direction. Sure.
No, I agree that it's not just millennials. Pain was there everywhere, and wherever somebody innovated, Google Meet is a result of that pain. Good. So we wrap up. To wrap up, I have a question for you, Sucharita. What did Work 3.0 teach you? I know it was a personal journey for you with your relationship with Mr. Chanda earlier on, but apart from that, what impact do you think it'll have on you as an entrepreneur or as a manager at your workplace?
So to discuss about this relationship with Obi, actually, strangely, he became a friend to me after he was no more, you know. And the little bit story behind it, there's one gentleman who's, I think we commonly know, called me one day and said ki Obik is there's one person called Obik Chande, he's going to come and see you in your office. He wants to do something with CII. So I said okay, very well. So then Obik came. He was this very nice bhodro looking person and very sweet guy. He came to my office and said, Chuchurita, I'm doing, and the way he started the conversation as if we know each other for many years, there was no discomfort. There was no need for any introduction, it felt. So then he said, I'm writing this book. This is the book. It is what about? That point of time, it sounded a little bit abstract to be honest. And then he said, we want to do something with CII now that you're the chair. I said, very well. Let me assume. I think I had just become the chair and there was some meetings, etc. soon to happen. We'll do something. We'll discuss the book because it's such an important topic. And then over time, he kept in touch with me. He used to, sort of used to WhatsApp each other that this is where something is happening. The book, very good reviews are coming. So it's going to be great. So, and then suddenly I get to hear from this common friend that he is no more. It was such a shock for me, though I never knew him when he was as a friend. But I always felt from that first meeting that he was such a talented man. And immediately that evening, I ordered for his book. And I thought, let me at least have his book with me. And I kept it in my office. And I used to like glance at it, look at it, thought that someday I'm going to read it. And then, of course, Malavika approached with this. And it was like a full circle. I mean, somewhere he thought that maybe Sucharita is one day going to read my book. And I thought that I'm going to read this book. Somewhere in the universe, our thoughts matched. And like I said, he became a friend after he was no more. And it was such a pleasure reading this book, and I read it very well. I put post-its and underlined and
You should put it up.
highlighted. Yeah, it's there with my
There.
colleague over there. So, and I liked every bit of it, especially once I read the whole book, then I went back to the reviews, which he had mentioned to me. I've got review from this person, I've got review from that person, and one review which I really liked and which really put the book in a small summary is that I think it's from a professor in Tufts in Harvard Kennedy who said that this book, the fourth industrial revolution meets the third work revolution and the first inner revolution. So he talks about inner revolution also, and that has been really my favorite section of the book, the inner revolution, how people are thinking, how you're supposed to internalize everything. The rest of it, the data, the kind of research he's done, the kind of language, I was just telling to Mr. Barun Chanda, the kind of literary quality that book has, it's remarkable, absolutely. So, and I will certainly revisit this book many times when I face this kind of situations, and I will recommend it to my HR, my partners who are in the leadership to certainly read this book for sure.
So, so I'd written a little conclusion, but I don't think there is any need for that. Thank you for wrapping it up so eloquently, Sucharita. Thank you both, Sucharita, Shamujit, and everyone here for your time and presence.